Hi, I'm Jack Borman, the Assistant Principal at Gull Lake Middle School. I'd like to tell you about the MAP Growth Family Report. I'll introduce you to the report and explain to you what the RIT Scale and Growth Report are and explain how you can use this information to help your child. The Family Report gives you an opportunity to look at and track your child's growth over time. This report makes it easy to see not only how your child is achieving, but also how they're growing. Let's take a closer look. For each subject, your child will receive a score on something called the RIT Scale. The RIT Scale is unique to NWEA and is used to assess students from kindergarten through high school. It's especially designed to measure growth over time. The solid line represents the student's scores. The dotted line represents the NWEA norms. These are typical scores for each grade level, subject, and season of students from across the country. In this first example, student A is a 6th grade student who took the MAP Growth Reading and Math Assessment this winter. Student A's score this winter was near the dotted line in math, but below the dotted line in reading. The reading score went down in the spring of 19, but they showed fantastic growth in the fall of 19 to get themselves back on track with a 15-point swing. Most students drop a couple of points over the summer. It's not unusual to see a dip in scores. In this example, student A actually made great gains over the summer. And looking at the summary below the lines, student A's current score puts him in the 42nd percentile in math and the 41st percentile in reading, which means that student A's score was at or above the level of 42% of other 6th graders in math and 41% of other 6th graders in reading from across the country. In my second example, student B is another 6th grader here at Gull Lake Middle School who took the MAP Growth Reading and Math Assessments this winter. Student B's scores were above the dotted line in both math and reading. Both scores dropped in the spring of 19, and the math score took the expected dip over the summer, but both scores strongly rebounded in the winter of 2020. Reading the summary below the graph, student B's current score puts him in the 71st percentile in math and the 79th percentile in reading, which means that student B's score was at or above the level of 71% of other 6th graders in math and 79% of other 6th graders in reading from across the country. The achievement data below tells us how these two students are doing for each testing session. To get more complete picture of their progress, we can also look at their growth over time. The growth section shows that student A is at the 18th percentile for growth in math, which means they grew as much or more than 18% of similar students from across the country. Student A is in the low growth mark in math. However, student A is at the 70th percentile for growth in reading. This is high average growth. Awesome. Student B is at the 89th percentile for growth in math, which means they grew as much or more than 89% of similar students from across the country. Student A is in the high growth mark in math. This is something that you should get excited about. Student B is also at the 79th percentile for growth in reading, which means they grew as much or more than 79% of similar students from across the country. They are at high average growth mark in reading. The report also includes projections, which tells us how well your child is likely to perform on future assessments, like our state MSTEP test. Older students also receive projections for the ACT and SAT exams. If you look at the bottom right corner of this report, student A's score reflects the high average growth in math, but they are projected to be partially proficient on their MSTEP test when taken in the spring. At the end of the report, it lists possible questions you could ask your child's teacher, like, does my child need extra help in specific areas, or when will my child's progress be measured again? Consider using these questions to guide any future conversations. If you have additional questions about MAP growth, you may want to reference the Family Toolkit. The URL is included on your child's family report. So please contact your counselor at Gull Lake Middle School if you have any questions. We'd be happy to help. Our number here is 269-548-3600.